Homeschool Oklahoma podcast. Homeschool Oklahoma is the state organization for homeschooling in Oklahoma. We promote, protect, and encourage parent-led and family-funded Christian homeschooling in the state. Our goal is to help you build your family through homeschooling in the name of Jesus. The goal of this podcast is to help homeschoolers, specifically Oklahoma homeschoolers, take full advantage of everything this state offers to homeschooling. We'll be talking about everything from why we homeschool to what resources are available in Oklahoma for homeschooling families. My name is Jonathan Bartlett, and I'm one of the board members for Homeschool Oklahoma. If you want to know more about Homeschool Oklahoma or want to support us by becoming a member, go to the homeschooloklahoma.org website and click the Join Now button. One of the things that new moms always have trouble with in homeschooling is picking a homeschooling style or curriculum. And so today, as our guest, we have Donna Smith on to help us talk about that. So Donna, welcome.
Hey, John.
So I want to start out, how did you get into homeschooling to begin with?
Well, my husband and I, we had one kid, and I had a friend that was homeschooling, and she made it sound like it was something that I could do based on just reading books. And so that's how we kind of got started. And my husband is a police officer, so his job was not really conducive to us spending a lot of time together once my kid got into school. So we thought, well, maybe if we could just homeschool for a little while, like maybe through 5th grade, then this might be an option for us to get to spend more family time together.
So originally you're just going to go through 5th grade. How far did you homeschool your kids through?
Well, I'm graduating my oldest this year from high school, and we have 3 other kids. Our youngest is 12, so we still have a little bit to go, but we'll go all the way. So
you were going to just go through 5th grade, but you actually made it all the way through.
Yes.
All right. So so going through that, how do you pick a curriculum?
Well, I like to do a lot of research. My dad did a lot of research on everything. He was very technical, computer programmer, and he would always research the product to death, basically. And I feel like I inherited that from him. So when I want to look for a curriculum in our home, something that we're going to use over a long time, I want to spend time finding out if it's something that I can use, number one, and if it's something that my kids are going to enjoy, or at least find useful. So I'll definitely look to other people first to see if they've used it. How long have they used it? That's really important. I don't want to talk to somebody who's just bought the program and thinks it's going to be awesome, and then 2 weeks later find out it's not that great. So what I want to do is to talk to somebody who's maybe used it over many years with more than one of their children, and it's worked for them. That's who I want to look at, and that's how I haven't always found that curriculum is like that. Sometimes you really just, there's nobody out there to review it, and so you just have to give it a shot, and it's okay for that not to work.
Gotcha. So when you first started, did you go through a long exploration time, or did you just start with something and then see what worked, or what the...
Oh yeah, when we first started, all I did was I just took books, books that were literature based. So something that was maybe written by one person who was really interested in the topic, whether it was just stories or if it was history based.
What's an example?
Well, we like to read. Speaking of history, we read Our Island Story or This Country of Ours. They're books that were written quite a bit ago, but they're mainly story-based. So instead of like a textbook would be written in a very dry manner, these are more written to the child as if they were stories, which makes it more fun and inspiring.
Yeah, I can see that. So, so how do you match curriculum to your kids?
That's a tough one because each kid has different needs, and they have different needs at different levels too. So I think one of the best ways to start off matching curriculum is to find out how your kid learns. So you've got a kid that is maybe a kinesthetic learner. They're going to need hands-on stuff and auditory stuff. They need to move things around, or they need to stand up and move around themselves. You've got an auditory learner who the best way that they can learn something is to hear it. But if they see it, it's a distraction for them. And then you've got your visual learners who they cannot listen to it. They have to see it. And then you've got everybody in between that, So once you figure out what style is best for your kid, then you can look at curriculum and tailor that. Either you can pick a curriculum that may work for multiple sensory issues for your kids, or you can just modify the curriculum yourself.
So you don't have to do the curriculum just as exactly as it's shown? Yeah,
absolutely not. Like, the curriculum writers most likely wrote the curriculum for their children, which is fantastic, because that they had their hands involved in it. They had a purpose for writing the curriculum, and it was not just to make money, but it was because they saw a need. That the thing is that's not your child. Your child has other needs, and you're the one that knows them best. So the thing that we can do is modify the curriculum that's there to suit our needs and throw out whatever we don't like.
Gotcha. So can you give us an example of something that you've modified or thrown out, or something like that?
Yeah, I do have one that I modified. I don't know if I want to say the name of it because it's highly used. It's a writing program that a lot of people love, and I love it. I love it in the method that they use it. But for my family in particular, my kids just don't use it in the same way. So we've taken the method of writing and listing things out and coming up with ideas, and we changed how we come up with the ideas to suit our family. And it seemed to work for the first kid, and then when I tried their method on the second kid and it didn't work, I switched to the way we did it with the first kid, and it just seemed to work all the way down. So yeah.
Well, that's cool that you can take something and that works for most people and make it really work for your family.
Yep.
So now there's different styles of homeschooling, and can you talk a little bit about different styles of homeschooling in general?
Yeah, what we call those like a philosophy of education. So I think when you're first starting in on homeschooling, it would be good to figure out, what is your style? What is your philosophy of education? And there are a lot of different ideas and methods to home educate. I would say you may be leaning more towards a literature-based program. You may be leaning more towards a political-based program. Maybe you are the type of person who likes some sort of a travel schooling, which is really popular right now. You can learn a lot from being out of the home. Or maybe your method is a principal approach, which would be faith-based. So there's different models. We have some on the Homeschool Oklahoma website that you can kind of look at. I think some people tend to lean more towards eclectic. That means that they pull from different methods and find what works for them in their home. So some people stick with the same model all the way through. And then others tend to kind of muddle it up as they go along and end up with eclectic. But that I think researching that is another good way to figure out other people that home educate in that method can also lead you to finding support groups that of other like-minded people that will help you in your homeschool journey.
Gotcha. So what about subjects that you're not good in? So if you've got a subject that you yourself don't know well, how do you pick out a curriculum for that?
Yeah, that's the funniest thing, because I feel like I'm a really good speller, and I thought, my kids are going to be just the best spellers. I got to teach them how to read first, and then they'll just, they'll learn to spell. Well, that's been the hardest thing for me to teach, and I have probably bought nearly every spelling curriculum on the planet. And I just, I still struggle with that. But what's so funny is somewhere along the line, I taught my kids how to type, and they have learned how to spell through spell check on their word processing. Well, I think when you're bad at something, or just bad at teaching it, there's always someone out there who has a way to do it that can supplement what you're doing. So a lot of people complain about math. They weren't good at math in school. There are so many great math programs out there to teach you how to teach your kids, or are teaching specifically your kids, leaving you out altogether. And you can just, focus on the testing or whatever. But 20 years ago, there were a limited number of curriculum options. But today there are so many options out there that it's almost hard to pick what you want to do.
Right.
Because we have almost too many. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just it's hard to research all those different things.
What would you do if for someone who's paralyzed by the sheer volume of available curricula?
Yeah.
What would you say their first step should be?
Well, that is definitely a thing. It's a valid thing because we want to find the best thing for our kids. We don't want to screw it up. We don't want to screw them up. But the thing is that kids are so flexible. So when we get a piece of curriculum in our home, it's always good to sit down with your kids and kind of go over it with them and say, just kind of put a little buffer between your idea and what you're expecting them to do. So I just got a new piece of curriculum in my home this last week, which you wouldn't think would happen because, I've kind of got this thing already, but that's not true. I'm still looking. I'm still out there, weeding through the mess of all the things that are there and all the reviews online. And I do that. I go through YouTube and I search for what someone has talked about, or if there's I think Kathy Duffy has a lot of reviews online, so I'll go and look at that and just see kind of what people's suggestions are about the curriculum. And then, I'll if it's inexpensive or if I feel like I can justify it, I'll go ahead and purchase it, bring it in my home. And then I sit with my kid and I tell them about this is the idea behind why we purchased this. So let's just take a look at it. And then I don't really ask them what they think at that point. I just kind of let them know what we're going to try out. And, we usually give things a good 6 weeks at least. And I don't want them to have an idea that they want to give up on this, because they will eventually be in a puddle on the floor. And then it's like, it's over.
Right.
So curriculum is difficult to weed through, but I think if you find a good resource for, looking, then it can be easier to find through reviews online nowadays, whereas it used to be you had to maybe find someone who could mentor you through. And then sometimes you feel obligated then to go with their suggestions. So it's sometimes easier to just go with somebody you don't really know online.
So one thing that I've seen parents be scared about is, how do I know that I'm teaching everything I need to teach? How do I make sure I'm not missing something important?
Yeah, that's sometimes difficult, because I think we all struggle with that. We don't want our kids to get to the end of their homeschool journey and have missed something. But the problem with that idea is it's kind of an in-the-box mentality that we have to teach all of these things in each year, and we can't miss anything, or there will be what we call gaps in learning. But the thing is, I'm an adult and I still have gaps, and I went through public school. So I think you can get through your educational career and have gaps just because everybody learns something different. And when you're in a homeschool environment, you're not learning the same thing as someone else. So we're going to have things that we don't know. But that's the most amazing thing about living, is because once we realize that we don't know something, we have an opportunity to go and learn about it, research it, and inspire your kids to learn about it too. So I think that's kind of where the stance that I've taken when I've realized, oh no, I forgot to teach them handwriting, that it's time to sit down and we're just going to learn something new. So taking it more as an opportunity in the moment than freaking out in fear because someone's going to look at me and judge me for that.
Right. Well, Donna, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I hope that helps you all learn to pick curriculum and how to get started. And that's all for our current episode, and we will see you next time.